Welcome to Nostalgia Pilots, a Trigun Stampede podcast that has a $6 million double-dollar bounty on its head. I'm Hugh.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Spence.
And we're here to discuss Trigun Stampede Episode 1, No Man's Land.
It's called You Should Be High While You Watch This.
It's called I Miss 1999/2000, and I'm an old man now, I guess.
I'm going to be real with you. I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of miss Johnny Yambosh. He was the voice of Vash back in the day. And, there's something missing without him. Like, there's a lot missing with the show.
So Trigun Stampede is a new 2023 adaptation of Yoshiyuki Naito's Trigun manga. Previously, there was a series in the late 90s, early 2000s that was one of the Adult Swim mainstay titles of space western animes, along with Cowboy Bebop and Outlaw Star. And this is a reboot of Trigun, and I have a lot of feelings about how it's not as good as the original.
Well,
yeah.
Once again, I have never seen any of it. So this was my first time being introduced to the world of Trigun, and I am very confused.
Okay. Yeah, so that's sort of the first thing, is that this jumps right in. So spoiler alerts for both the first episode of Trigun Stampede and the whole dang series of the original Trigun. Because this starts with the generation ship exploding.
Yeah, see, that's what threw me off completely starting this episode, is because the revelation of the seed ship and the fact that Vash and his brother are not from Earth, all of that is a revelation that comes so much later. I'm talking about, this is climax towards, ending of the series level of information that they give you in the first 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah, for the original series, it was 26 episodes, and you get the backstory with Rin in episode 19.
Yeah, and so this leaves me questioning, where on earth are they going to go with this series? Because, one of the best part, I think the part that made the original series, stand out, was that Vash was affable, he was lovable, he was goofy. In this, he just kind of comes off as kind of annoying, and
he's kind of a sad sack in this.
Yeah, and Merle is also not good. She's not as enjoyable as she was in the original. She seems a lot more mean-spirited and a lot more I guess they play it up for laughs, that she's naive of how No Man's Land is. But you would think she would have at least some semblance of how she wants to do things. And in the original series, Merle and Millie were excellent. They were very competent. Millie was played as kind of a sidekick to Merle, but she was still competent. And they were also very kind of dangerous when they got put in screws, when nuts got put to bolts. You don't get any of this in that.
So my guess is that this only has a 13 episode season, so they're just cutting out the full first half.
So for those of us who have never watched any Trigun whatsoever, and we're trying to figure out what the hell is going on, here was my impression. The finale, using inspiration from other pop culture. If you take the finale of Titan AE, where you've got the seed ship that kind of explodes on New Bob, or Bob, aka New Earth. So you've got that, but it's a disaster. And then you mix it with the kind of universe of Firefly, and instead of River being a science experiment, she's a journalist. and Mal is her drunkard companion. And then they come across this goofball wash type character who happens to be a badass at shooting things. There. That's my explanation with other references.
Yeah, then that's not bad. It's
not.
That's sort of close. So
that's
yes.
what I interpreted from watching this for the first time. Also, did you all watch the dub or the sub? Because I watched the sub.
I also watched the sub.
Yeah, because I was having difficulty processing auditorially, so I had to read the subtitles.
No, I generally watch most of my animes, and since this was if it was the original, I probably would have watched the dub, because that's kind of what I grew up with. But like, I don't think this show does fans of the original or any new fans it could have made any favors, because again, they give you such an information dump in the first episode, and they don't even you don't get that much time with Vash or Merle. One of the I hate harping on the original series, but one of the best parts is we didn't get into the heavy sci-fi tropes of it all until we were firmly down the road and we recognized that Vash had a life out here in the no man's land. Like, he's got buddies, specifically Wolfwood, but also he becomes friends with Merle and Millie over the course of the series. So when the things start happening, you find out his tragic backstory. There's a lot invested into it. But when you throw it out there so far early, now you're just like, okay, so he's going to have to fight his brother at some point. Like, it leaves no mystery, no interest at all about what's going to happen in the show.
Yeah. So, like, the original series.
I do have something to say about that, though.
Okay.
For me, it actually does create a lot of interest, because I'm like, okay, so clearly this guy had this tragic past, and we don't know why he was strung up when we first get introduced to him, but clearly he's kind of a rapscallion folk hero, and somehow these two journalists are going to follow him around to get his real story. For me, that made me interested to find out the whole thing, because there's got to be a way to go from that explosion to how this guy is now, even with seeing that that cameo at the end of the episode where, you know, you've got the maniacal face of his brother doing a very good Kubrick method, but also the voice is just creepy as hell.
I want to know what's up with this maniacal piano playing he's doing.
It is very Phantom of the Paradise.
It's very Davy Jones on his C organ kind of.
Oh my god, it is very Bill Nighy. But
yeah. So again, we are introduced to this version of Millie, this version of Meryl Streif, and she's in the original. She was like an insurance adjuster, which I think was much funnier.
And it also makes more sense that they would follow Vash around, because they literally have to do insurance claims wherever he goes. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and to cover and to make it, like, when they start describing him as like a natural disaster, the humanoid typhoon, it would, you would think along the lines of anime logic that of course an insurance adjuster would want to follow this insanely dangerous criminal around, because they don't want to be paying out these insurance premiums.
Right, like the idea that it's like an insurance thing is like deeply funny, especially when you like consider the fact that the whole tension of the first series is that Meryl's like, no, this cannot possibly be the guy who has destroyed 3 towns and has a astronomical bounty on his head.
Yeah, because he's a goofball. He's like, literally one of the best parts is like Merle and Millie find him the most unthreatening person ever. Like, because they're just like, how can this bumbling goofball who cries at the drop of a hat be this vicious?
Like the gunfighter who doesn't carry any bullets.
Yes, and doesn't kill him.
I thought that was a pretty good reveal. Like, okay, you all are watching this from a I know the story standpoint.
Right.
I'm coming at this from I don't know anything about the story standpoint. So, he definitely seems like a goofball when you first meet him. And you see how well received he is in town, how kind of flirty he is, how reluctant he is to fight with anything. And then at the very end, even though when we get to that duel thing, I have words. But it isn't until the last minute and a half that you see that he's kind of a badass.
Right.
It's like, don't get me wrong, like, they're not changing anything intrinsically about the character, but their delivery, like, again, my biggest issue with this was so much information. Like, and again, like, because they show that he's so reluctant to fight and that he doesn't hurt anyone, like, one of the things I really liked about the original series is that they draw this out. Like, we get hints of it, right? Like, Millie and Meryl will show up to a town. Vash has been there, and everybody's injured. The town's messed up, but nobody's injured. Like, nobody lost their life. And then, like, you'll find out that, like, then later on, finally, when they become entrenched in his story, they find out that he tries so hard not to have bad things happen. And he gets all the negative aspects of it, even though it was never his fault. Especially because now that he's got the double billion-dollar bounty went out of his head, so many people come after him, and there was nothing that he could do about it. Like, I think that was a really good dynamic, especially with the whole insurance thing, because it speaks to their frustration. How do you adjust for someone who's a literal walking disaster, and all of it is not his fault? It's really good. But I will give them this. This is probably the first anime that I've watched that's used that new CGI style of animation that actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the animation was very striking. I feel like I wasn't super keen on it, but I think the way it looked, like the animation looks, especially for like the vehicles and the machines and stuff, and like the plant, all look really good.
I kind of expected there to be some kind of soundtrack like from Horizon Zero Dawn, because the design, especially of those birds, remind me of Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, it gives you like a steampunk.
But at the same time, that's part of where my influence from Titan AE comes in, because Titan AE was one of the first animated movies that did that cross of CGI and animation that looked really striking. And so I was trying to put my finger on why I really liked this style, and because it reminds me of a movie that I enjoyed very much in my teens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for Titan AE. I like Titan AE a lot. I went on a date to see Titan.
That's one of the few Drew Barrymore movies that I like.
But I think also one of the issues, not an issue, but what we're seeing in the approaches of the two shows is that anime back in the day had a built-in narrative or built-in concept where you knew you were going to watch at least 24 episodes, probably 26, before you got the full story. But now anime shifted. Now anime is like an 11 to 13 episode series type thing. And so I can see why they front-loaded all of that exposition and backstory and context, because they don't necessarily know if they'll get a second season, even though Trigun is one of the biggest things to hit anime in the 90s. But I can see why they front-loaded. And I mean, hopefully they won't. I'm hoping that this drunkard kind of I'm 2 days before retirement journalist is replaced by Millie. I hope we get Millie in the show. I feel like we need more representation for that type of character, like, because Millie was not your standard typical anime female. She was tall. She was very big. Like, she wasn't the like sexy, like wearing the skin tight outfits, cat girl anime character. Like, she was a real person. Like, she's a really appreciated character.
Yeah, and also she carried a huge gun.
Yes, a very, very big gun.
So why are we not watching another episode? Because that would be a huge bonus for me.
Oh, listen, I think you should definitely go back and watch it, because Millie by herself is excellent, but later in the series, when you finally meet Wolf D. Wood, and Wolfwood is basically a Catholic priest, but he's the last remaining cool Catholic priest because he rides a motorcycle and carries a giant crucifix full of guns.
He's a priest who's also an assassin.
Yes, it's also a rocket launcher, and he and Millie falls in love.
What?
It is the most anime. Like, this gets like the original Trigun is so like the quintessential late 90s anime. Like,
I thought the Series X remix was weird, even though I really love that series.
We know. God.
Shut up.
Good. No, but
I only made you watch it once. God.
My favorite thing is that there was a cosplayer who would be at like Otakon every year, and he did like the Jewish version of Wolfwood, which was like a giant gun Star of David.
That's amazing.
That was amazing. It was like the best costume.
But
shout out to that guy. Yeah, shout out to Wolfowitz, wherever you are now, sir.
Wolfowitz, excellent. But I will tell you this. Hugh knows this. But there are certain anime that have moments that will rock your soul. And Trigun is one of them. I would put it up there with Gurren Lagann because of what goes down with Kamina. Same thing with Wolfwood and this. It's very much the William Shakespeare of it all, because Wolfwood is so much cooler than Vash. Like, he had to get Mercutio out of the play. Like, he was so much cooler than Vash.
But that's sort of the point. Everyone is cooler than Vash, because Vash is kind of a weenie when you strip down like the reputation. Right.
And no one ever, like, once it was revealed that Wolfwood and Millie were a thing, and they got drunk together and had that cute little bit in the show, no one wanted anything else in the show. Like, because we all knew that Merle was going to fall for it. Right?
Yeah, like, that was definitely the will they, won't they.
Yeah, but Millie and Wolfwood had the best relationship. It's excellent. Like, and I really hope that doesn't get left on the cutting room floor in the adaptation.
Yeah, so they do have introduced this new character, Roberto, who I'm not super thrilled about. He's like an alcoholic, cynical journalist who is Millie's boss.
He's like if you melded Riggs and Murtaugh from the Lethal Weapon franchise, but made them journalists.
And most of his job in this episode is to stop Millie from doing things, and also to provide exposition. Because he's like, he's fixing a plant. This is what a plant is. Because somehow you haven't lived on this place your entire 23-year-old life.
Yeah, they use him to set up the fact that like Vash is doing something that not many people can do, or any for that matter, and a lot of the economy of the no man's land place that they're in is stealing, trading, and bounty hunting, things of that nature. Like, there's not a lot of inventors, there's not a lot of people to fix old tech.
Right.
Which is one of the
it's sort of directly stating the thing that the original series mostly like hinted around and had a bunch of stories around, which is that like humanity has crashed on an uninhabitable planet, and the only reason that they can still survive is because they're clustered around these plants, which are like these terraforming machines that are slowly failing.
Yeah, and I think, if we were just given that and we're left with the idea of like, how can Vash fix these things, you know what I'm saying, instead of the seed ship reveal, I think it would have left us with a better taste in our mouth about what's going to happen with the series. Because again, they blow their narrative load in the first episode. Like, we know that he has insight about the technology. We know he's not from Earth. We know he's from the seed ship. We also know that his brother had something to do with the crashing of the ships. Like, all of that is revealed in like the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of the show. And I'm just like, wow, they're moving fast, guys.
Yep.
Like, and the worst part is, like, in another, like, the character designs for Bash specifically. I liked the idea of his arm being like old and kind of beat up and like not working as well, because it makes it seem like he's lived in this world a lot longer than we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But his arm doesn't get that. His arm is very sleek. It's like green, like it's green, and it's like very much like a Star Warsy and like smooth.
Yeah, it also looks very skeletal, this version, which is interesting, seeing as how like that gun developed over the course of the original series.
Right.
Like how they're going to show that. But so the two reporters come across Vash the Stampede strung up outside of a town, and they cut him down, and then Meryl also like tells a bunch of guards, like a militia people who are.
Oh wait! They're guards in Imperial armor on steampunk chocobos.
Yeah, they're on chocobos.
Listen,
I'm glad that the series kept chocobos. Like, that was one of the things I liked about the original series, that like you could not throw a rock in anime and manga in the 90s without hitting a chocobo.
Now, my question is, was anybody else getting some Attack on Titan vibes from that cloak? Like, it felt very Corpse Squads, like, with the design and, like, the fact it was on the cape. But, again, there's so much movement in, like, animation, with the animation, that I'm actually not upset with the style of animation. I'm actually, again, I think this is the first CGI anime because, like, towards the end, when Vash is doing that characteristic run that he does, that, like, I'm Goofy running at full sprint kind of looking animation, like, it was really done well in CGI. It wasn't as stiff and robotic as you would think. But yeah, I was okay with that. And like we get to see here, that they unleash him, and she lies and says that he went somewhere else, and they run off to go after Vash. But she recognizes who he is off the rip and ties him up again to take her with him, because I guess she's decided that he's going to be her big story.
Right. Like, so she's like, I'm going to turn you in after you give me an exclusive.
Paparazzi these days are just brutal.
Right. Free Vash. And so then when they get to the town next, and that lady. By the way, I love this trope in anime, is that now, like, a lot of the anime have these characters who are like bumbling and looking for a place to hide out, and they hide out with like the relative big mama of the town. Like, she's the one who takes in all the fronts and the runaways. Yeah. And she's about to give Merle this business. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And she's got a restaurant. It's pretty great.
Yep. And they tell these two reporters that, hey, this guy he's okay. Like, he was able to fix our, what is it, a water generator or something? Mm-hmm. He was able to fix it for us last time he was here, so he's always welcome. And he's like, hey, these guys are okay. And Big Mama looks at him like, then why are you tied up? And then all of a sudden, he's not tied up anymore, which tells me how incompetent, what's her name, Merle, is.
Well, I mean, that's just sort of lampshading the fact that Vash the Stampede, like, looks like he's a bumbling, but he has superpowers when he wants to.
Right.
Yeah.
So getting back to the plot, they go up to the water treatment thingamabobber and find that one half of it is infected with this like red algae type stuff. And as we all know from our planet, you know, red algae bad, red algae poisonous, not good.
Mm-hmm.
And just as they're saying, oh, it can't be fixed, we have to raise the money for getting a new one, it can be about 6 million credits. There's the guards. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
That's how much this dude's reward is for.
Coincidentally.
Take him into custody, and then old Drunky McDrunkface says, wait! You are such a coward. Just taking in an unarmed man and beating him up. You should do it properly. You should do a duel.
Duel.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to duel.
Is that because I sent you all the picture of what Crunchyroll had for me, which was Yu-Gi-Oh, Triforce gun or Trigun, and then something else?
Look. I aspire to the levels of petty Seto Kaiba has achieved in his pursuit of Yugi Urameshi. Or not Yugi Urameshi.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that loses my words.
Yeah, I can't remember Yugi's full name. But no, when you literally spend most of your fortune to buy an island, to create a 4D virtual reality game simulator of ancient magical technology just to go at your rival, you have a level of petty that most people will.
But anyway,
fair.
Looking at you, Seto Kaiba.
So this captain or whatever goes up onto the ledge to have the duel with Vash.
Yes.
And it escalates.
Yeah. So
in under a minute.
Yeah. So they pull out their gun, or they both holster their guns, and Vash protests that he doesn't want to actually fight. And then the guard captain's like, well, I didn't want to fight anyway. He puts his gun away, takes out a rocket launcher, and just like
and shoots cluster bazookas.
Yeah, shoots a cluster mine into the air. The slowest effing cluster mines.
Look, Atane would not call this a circus. It would not be.
No. Well, they don't release enough spirally smoke to be an Atano circus.
No, that is true. But this has to be a slow-moving cluster of rockets, because how else is Vash going to get the comedically timed one bullet he needs to throw a dirt clod, shoot it, and then somehow hit it in just the right way to shatter the bits to knock all of the bazooka rounds out of the sky, because he's Vash.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say the sequence of Millie throwing the one bullet and then Vash having to chase it and get it was a really good sequence, and I think it was probably their biggest flex in the animation on this episode.
Yeah, like I did like that part. Yeah, so then that sort of like ends with him saving the town. And then we sort of cut over to his brother, who is playing a weird organ. with
wearing like a cocoon cloak.
Yeah, it was definitely like a very much like a God Emperor of Dune kind of cloak.
Yeah, I really wanted him to be floating around with weird boils on his face. And he just needs Vash so he can drain the health from him or something. because he felt so cartoony villainous. It wasn't even funny. Like, he also has the weird statue of Demona from Gargoyles above his organ.
Yeah, that was another mystery that I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, if Trigun was a darker show, I would have said that would be funny. It's not that dark. Hopefully that is.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like just because of the style of the animation, which kind of gives all of these designs like tiny heads and huge clothes, or if it's like something specifically about him. Because like Vash's jacket also looks like way too big for him.
So I have a question for our one resident newbie to the Trigun franchise.
What?
What do you think of the superpower of perfect trajectory? Like, basically, and this is not spoiling much of it because obviously we saw it. But how do you take that as a power? Now, don't get me wrong. If this sticks to the way the show normally does, the original did, he will do physics-defying things with bullets.
Got it. So he says he doesn't want to kill. So having that perfect accuracy will help ensure that there are fewer casualties, if any. So I think it's a decent skill, but at the same time, kind of useless in the big picture.
Yeah, especially if you don't want to kill anyone.
If you don't want to kill anyone, like I could see if he was a firefighter and like was putting out fires and needed that fire extinguishing whatever to go perfectly, you know, that I could see that being a different way to use that ability. If constantly winning pissing contests, I don't know. Shooting those weird skeletal bird things for whatever. I don't think there's any meat on them, but maybe they need them for resources. I don't know. So yeah, there's uses for it. He just has to get real creative with it.
Yeah, I hope they do stick with this show. I hope that they do stick with the creativity aspect, because that is, you are not wrong in that. Is that they do find a good many ways to facilitate the use of his power in the original series.
Could you imagine him doing like painting houses and things like with that kind of precision, but with like a pressure washer type sprayer or something like that?
Just wait until you see special equipment that Vash has to use at some point.
I don't know. Did we tell people why we're doing this episode right now?
Not at all.
Okay, so yes, it is our April Fool's Day episode. So happy April Fools, everyone!
Indeed.
Happy birthday, friend of the podcast, Val. Sorry.
We are not switching. Next week we will be back with more Gundam.
But yeah.
But yes, for today, happy April Fools. We wanted to look at a new series. So we kind of reached our favorite parts then?
Sure.
Okay, and I want to say that my favorite part is the design of sort of the desert and those birds, and we do get to see like a cool sandworm for a minute as they're driving around. Like, I thought the designs for all that stuff was really cool, and I think that was like the one thing that I thought was improved over the original.
Yeah, I think they definitely do make the world seem far more diverse and like interesting than the old one, because we never really saw a lot of the wildlife like we did in this episode in the original.
Yeah, the original series is just like, yep, that's definitely a desert planet.
You guys heard of Tatooine, right?
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite part, Jason?
For me, I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna have to say the animation, just for the fact that I've seen X-Arm, I've seen so many different anime that do the CGI blending thing, and it's hot garbage. And it looks terrible. But with Trigun Stampede, it looks really, really good. And if there's anything this old anime fan would love to jump on the new era in anime about, but I can't, is that the animation. The animation across the board generally has stepped the game up. And even so in this type of cutting edge animation of CGI, cell shaded stuff, they made it look really, really good in this. So I'm not mad at it. And I would say I would recommend watching the show again, but not if Millie does not show up.
So I do agree that I want me some Millie in this. Sorry, Roberto.
Sorry.
I think for me, I know I'm staying true to form here, but the way that the clothing was moving and because that brings me into a show is like the movement of the characters and everything. And I think that was beautifully animated. And I really like Vash's coat. I kind of want it. I kind of want to make it.
Vash's coat and his sunglasses are his iconic things. The orange sunglasses and that coat. That coat was all over.
Yeah. It just, there was no fringe issue for me.
I was going to say, this is a sci-fi space western with no fringe.
It certainly is, and that makes me ecstatic.
I was hoping we'd see some. And the worst part about it is I definitely think there's some in the original series.
Mm-hmm. But if they're on a planet, the planet has gravity, whereas in Gundam Wing, they were on a ship that did not have gravity, as shown by them floating around on the frickin' ship. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox.
Listen, those tassels are space tassels. They can work in Zoom.
You can't see me, but I'm just shaking my head.
Guys, y'all just do not understand how much they hated those tassels.
If we ever take this show on the road, I guess I am the most emotive person on the cast.
If we ever do a live version of the show, I promise you a Western outfit with nothing but tassels on it. I swear to God.
I will disown you. You will not get to come over to my house and drink my alcohol ever again.
Shame. It's terrible. But yeah, guys, that was Trigun Stampede. A revamp from the 90s.
A revash, you might say.
Yeah! Oh, power of that dad joke was pretty impressive. Not gonna lie.
So until next time, you can find all of our episodes at nostalgiapilots.com. Find me at hughjoconnell.com.
Find me over at nimlos.org. That's kind of what I do.
And all of my links are on linktr.ee/resonant moon.
And Jared, wherever he is this fine evening, can be found at skinner.fm. Next week, we'll be back with more G Gundam. And until next time, nobody brought donuts.
Donuts. What about bullets?
Yeah, 122 caliber bullet.
Does anyone have a 22 caliber bullet?
Just one.